and welcome to Greenheart Connects. I'm Marcel and I'll be your host. Thank you for joining us today. Greenheart Connects is a monthly online series where we gather and exchange ideas for caring for the earth and for each other. Through facilitated discussions and curated presentations, people from around the world share inspiring stories, tips, suggestions, and resources to improve lives, local communities, and the world. Greenheart Connects is brought to you by Greenheart International, a not-for-profit organization facilitating global understanding through cultural exchange programs for Americans and young people around the world. Each month, Greenheart Connects dives into 4 themes: environmentalism, volunteerism, fair trade, and personal growth. Today, we will be talking about volunteering with Georgia Van Cuylenburg. Georgia is an actress, producer, and philanthropist who has dedicated her life to working with people born into unjust experiences. She's an outspoken advocate for global human rights and ending childhood trauma, and she's deeply involved in several causes and organizations. We will be live for a Q&A with Georgia after a short presentation to hear how she is moved and motivated to give so much of her time and attention to being in community. We think you'll be inspired. Thank you for joining us today. Exchange has the power to broaden perspectives and to change lives. Are you ready to hear about some feel-good work? Let's go.
Hi, I'm Georgia Van Kylenburg. I am a very, very passionate volunteer. I think that giving my time, if that's, the way we say it to folks around the world, is my favorite thing to do in the world, and just offer my heart and experience and get to be in community with people all over the world, growing and learning together. I am the founder of Arts Bridging the Gap. We're a nonprofit organization here in Los Angeles. We provide experiences in art to create healing of trauma and creating community and bridging gaps, ensuring that youth get the resources that they deserve to have so that they can be the most incredible humans that they're born to be. We paint murals across LA. We've done 63 of them. And we bring community members. We've worked a lot with law enforcement and under-resourced communities, bringing them together. They design the murals themselves, working with artists. And then we open it up to the community. Come and paint with us. Come and if you think you can't paint, that's perfect. I failed 9th grade art and I do it. And I've designed 6 of the murals now. So if I can do it, you can do it. And we just paint together. So I came into this thinking, we're going to paint murals, we're going to have kids break down barriers, and police officers will see each other differently. What I didn't know was possible was for me to see in them what our world could be. I also am the chairman of Hearts for Community Action in Uganda as a volunteer. We work predominantly around education, and education support for youth right now is our main focus. We are, during the pandemic, we were making sure that they stayed connected to learning, and took worksheets and helped them with their school so that they would stay in school. But we also do a little bit of farming there and emergency response. A lot of our youth are HIV positive or are in families with HIV and dealing with severe malnutrition and illnesses like jiggers, which is when you don't have shoes. So we're always trying to get our kids shoes. In Ethiopia, I'm the founder and chairman of Women's Community Leadership Program, where we use business skills and empowering the women to find a business that they can begin and help them through it. But deep underneath that is an addressing of the mental health crisis in the world. In African countries, it's very taboo to talk about mental health. So we're trying to talk about it because these are huge issues for women in poverty. It's impossible to live in poverty and not have mental ill health because of the trauma that comes with that. And we're trying to support them while addressing the business skills so that it doesn't force them into a place of feeling in this taboo area. I have been a volunteer working with folks experiencing homelessness since I can't even remember, 2008, I think I started here in LA, and I volunteer constantly with the Los Angeles mission. I am very, very honored to be part of that community. They feed our friends and neighbors every day. So they do about 1,200 meals a day. For different folks coming in and needing breakfast, lunch, or dinner. I have a farm on the rooftop of the LA mission that feeds our friends and neighbors, but also is training young men and hopefully women soon who are in the program at the Los Angeles mission rehabbing their life. We teach them how to identify fruits and vegetables and how to plant them. And it's an aeroponic farm, so learning about chemicals and, well, lack of chemicals, but nutrients, and what goes into those, so that they can get a job either in produce or horticulture or working at Whole Foods, who knows, when they graduate from the program. And then I do a lot of work around homelessness on the outside of that, where I go and visit a lot of people experiencing homelessness and work with different organizations creating different content, because my spot of where I work in the world and how I support myself is through entertainment. So I like to share any of that understanding and knowledge I have to support our folks that need a little bit of a lift up, or something that is important for people to know, because I think so often we think if something bad happens to you and if you're someone with trauma or things that have gone on, then you can't give of yourself, if that makes sense. And I think that it's such a sad misunderstanding that so many of us are told, because they often say you got to fix yourself before you can fix others. I don't think it's about fixing at all. It's about being a human that's in a place that's had experiences, that's seen things, and that there are other humans out there that have also seen things and experienced things. And for me, I have certain skills and certain understandings, and they have certain skills and certain understandings. And I'm honored to be connected to them. When I was 2.5 years old, I was the victim of abuse from a man, and it instantly changed the way I saw the world. Before that, as my parents will say, I was the happiest, friendliest child ever. And in that moment, I had to pretend that I was the friendliest, happiest person ever from that moment on, because I kept it a secret. I didn't tell my parents. I thought I needed to protect them from what had happened to me because I was the bad person. And I decided I was going to protect children and protect everyone in the world forever from all the bad stuff, and have them know that they are perfect and magical and okay, and they're not bad. And that was my thing. I just knew I need to make every child happy. So I took this on. I have so many memories of even being 3 or 4 and being like walking into a room, and I would always say, "Hello, friends," because I was so ready to make people better. And at 4.5, I realized that entertainment worked. I got to be my first production and saw laughter and happiness. And I was like, oh my gosh, I want to do this forever and make people happy. And when I was 12, I decided I was going to move to Los Angeles to do that, because I realized Hollywood has this megaphone that reaches the world. And so I decided I'm never going to drink, never going to smoke, never going to do drugs. I'm going to be a positive role model in Hollywood. Moved here, and what I saw was what I'd always believed, that there were other communities experiencing far less comfort, far more challenging situations, that had been born into issues that they had no control over. We talk now about systemic racism and we're really aware of that. But back then in 2005, it was just like, what's happening? Why isn't this community getting what I got? I was volunteering at Children's Life Saving Foundation. I would go and tutor kids Tuesday and Thursday, and they would talk about never having art and never having these extracurricular activities. And I was like, this is wrong. These are the things that bring out who a child is. This is the stuff that makes math and English important. And so many of our kids in lower income communities don't get any of that. They're literally we call them under resourced communities now, and it's exactly what it is. And I just started thinking, this is not right. This is not fair. And homelessness, I mean, to go from a country where I remember seeing one person sleeping on the street when I was in Australia, and then to come here, and probably at that time there was about 45,000 people experiencing homelessness in Los Angeles. And that profound shift and seeing it, I was so mortified and so confused. A valuable personality for a volunteer is there's a problem and I want to fix it. So often when we see problems, we go, oh, that's too hard. I want to fix it, but I don't know how. Run to the fire is my number one suggestion. And I did. I just was like, I want to understand this. I got to know people experiencing homelessness. I got to spend time with these communities of color and communities in under-resourced areas, and started asking questions. So I was constantly listening and learning, and I knew I wanted to do something, but my idea was I'm going to spread positive messages through entertainment, and I'm going to need to be famous before I do that, right? In 2008, I had been a hair model and doing lots of hair modeling, and I lost all of my hair in about 2 weeks, and it just all fell out. And I was, of course, stressed and challenged and didn't know what to think. But I decided this is happening to me so that I can connect to kids. Because before they looked at me and were like, what does this white blonde haired lady know? You know, and my dad's colored, he's brown, he's from Sri Lanka. And so I'm not what I seem. And now I have this extra thing that people assume I have this great hair, and these little girls would say to me, like, I love your hair. I'm like, you can have it, it's not mine. And it would open up this conversation where they would want to tell me about their issues. And suddenly there was this incredible bonding because I was being real and they could be real. And what happened for me, I made a movie about it, and it launched me into this community of the alopecia community, where there's Children's Alopecia Project and National Alopecia Areata Foundation. So I started volunteering with them and going to the camps and talking, and I got on these news stations like 2020, and it showed me that once again, my greatest challenges were the thing that were putting me in a place that I'd always wanted to be. I was suddenly having 1.7 million people watch me talk about my challenges. And so it continued to like pat me on the back and say, you're doing the right thing, keep going. And in about 2013, I started saying, I need to do something about my kids. I love these kids so much and they're so special, and I love volunteering with them, but we need to change things. And I need to give them art. We need to bring them art. And one of my special boys, Raziel, at that point was in 3rd grade. And Razi was having so much trouble with the math and English we were trying to doing so much. He would cry when he didn't get it right. And then one day I always do silly dances with the kids in our tutoring at halfway, just to break up the brains and give them something different to breathe through. And he was an incredible dancer, and he'd never danced with us before. And I was like, Razi, did you know you could do this? And he just looked at me sheepishly. So I got him into a dance school in Brentwood, which, for people that know LA, to take a boy from Inglewood to Brentwood with his mum was quite a fun, like hilarious juxtaposition. We've got this little boy, Razi, amongst all these white girls doing hip hop class. And his math and English at that point was at a 1st grade level, and he was in 3rd grade. And in the 3 months that he did that dance classes with them, it went up to a 3rd grade level. And that's when that light bulb of like, I want to solve something, I have a need to change something. I said, I'm going to start an organization that provides arts education to underserved youth, because I need to understand what happened. And I researched and learned and found that arts is essential in the development of a child's brain, in their sense of socio-emotional strength and confidence, and also just for beingness, to be able to know it's okay to let go, especially healing traumas if we talk about adverse child experiences. So I got into this world and started that organization. And through that, I started realizing how my understanding of the world brought something important to the children that I'd already been bringing my love and happiness to, and started seeing how much they could enrich my world, even more so than just my love for them and the love that I felt and the hugs I would get. And of course, I loved it. Like, I turned up every Tuesday and Thursday with the thought of, I'm the lucky one here. Like, it was never like, oh, I have to go and volunteer. It was like, yes, I'm going to feel better at 6:30 tonight. When I get here at 4:30, I will feel better. And there'd be times when I would sit on my couch, and I remember back then my roommate was like, what's that smile on your face? I'm like, I just spent the entire day volunteering with kids, and I feel so full. And that's the thing that I think so many people forget that they'll often say, oh, I volunteered at Thanksgiving. It felt so good, but I can't volunteer. I'm too busy. Like, well, why do you deprive yourself of this incredible experience and this incredible feeling? So I slowly but surely became very addicted. And there was one point where I was volunteering at the mission every Wednesday in the kitchen, feeding our friends and neighbors. I was doing Tuesday and Thursday, and then I was starting my own organization. And then I'd be doing packing backpacks for people experiencing homeless in the afternoon on the weekends. And I realized that I have an ability, my strength is having ideas and seeing what could solve a problem. So I realized that maybe that's the thing I can bring to a community, whereas this community is giving me knowledge, they're giving me companionship, they're giving me friendship, they're giving me insight and awareness and gratitude for the world. And I can give them solutions and ideas and an admiration that they don't see very often. And that's something that launched me into starting to do the work that I have been focused on now, which is really creating content that is seeing people as human, showing the world the humanity of everyone. So we film in India, we filmed in Lebanon, we're filming here. Literally, the project is called Human by Any Other Name. And I think what I've been able to experience in my volunteering, which is the part that I just wish everybody could see, is that this is a human moment. This is this precious, incredible, never to be repeated, couldn't even try to recreate it if you told the story, human moments that I've had so many of these because I volunteered. And I really think that there's a need for another word that we need to develop, because volunteer, when we say that, still comes with the connotation of it's my duty to do this. It's like, how lucky are you that you get to have an experience with a human that has a story that is unbelievable. Every time you volunteer, every time you go and be in community with these people of any community, any group, I promise you the stories you will hear if you just ask, like, oh, where are you from? Where are you studying? Just a simple question can open up understanding to the world. In Uganda, in India, there is and in Ethiopia, there's a different sense around volunteering. It's not like, oh, I'm a volunteer kind of person, I have to do this. There's just this sense of, today I'm in the community. If they were to say it the best, that word community says it, like, I'm in community today, I'm not earning money. And that's all. That's the only thing that's different. I'm being who I am and I'm making a difference, just as I do when I'm earning money. But today I'm doing it not earning money. I think when you know that there's money at the end of it, there's almost a like value proposition that's involved. When the value proposition is, was I a human today? Did I have a fantastic interaction? Did I learn something? And was I able to support somebody else in a need they had? And maybe one day they'll support me in a need I have. Yes, the value proposition is met. You can notice the magic of it more. Volunteering doesn't mean you have to give your day up. It can be calling somebody who's an elderly folk who needs a conversation. And that was something that I learned during the pandemic. I started delivering food to folks who couldn't get out. There's little things like that. If you're going to the grocery store, how hard is it to add another bill? So there's so many little things that sometimes we don't think of. Young people can volunteer all the time. And one of the biggest things they can do is to spend time with our elderly community, because they've got great stories to tell and they love the company, and you can read to them, all these incredible things that if a young person needs to learn to read more, that's a great opportunity. And I think that's one of those things that so many people, as I was sharing earlier, think that they're too busy. And I understand. I am very busy. What I have learned, though, is that my days and my weeks are better when I volunteer during them. If I often think of it as kind of like when you work out or doing yoga or meditation. So often people say, oh, I don't have time to meditate. But what meditation brings to your day and brings to who you are is so far more beneficial to you than not doing it. And volunteerism to me is exactly the same. When you just say, we're going to do this for 2 hours. And that's one of the things, you don't have to volunteer by yourself. If you have a friend that you are planning to meet up with, and you're like, oh, we're going to go for a coffee, or we're going to go and pack backpacks for folks experiencing homelessness. We'll still have the same conversation. We'll still have the same experience, but we're going to actually be helping the world be a more connected place. And I always encourage people to do that. I always encourage families to volunteer with their kids, because our young people, they get it more, and they're looking for a way to change things and make a difference. And you can provide that as an adult who searches for a volunteer opportunity. And seeing young people volunteer is just my favorite thing, because they have got it sorted. They're not even thinking about it. They're like, oh, yeah, we'll take care of this. And it's absolutely beautiful. So I just encourage anybody who, I think, honestly, if you're like, there's just something missing in my life, you could be thinking, I'm too tired, I'm too exhausted, something's wrong with my life, I'm just not feeling as happy as I used to. Just try, like, put one thing on the calendar, whether it's packing boxes of food, whether it's reading to an elderly person, whether it's delivering groceries, and see how you feel afterwards. Because I've always, since the abuse I suffered as a child, there was always something missing in me, because I had a hurt and I had a pain that was really hard to heal. And it was through volunteerism that I learned to heal it, by seeing that everybody has something, and everybody has a pain and a hurt. Some are way worse and some are not as bad, but it just doesn't matter. Being in community will help you deal with every moment in your life. So I encourage you not to think about volunteerism as something you have to do. Volunteerism is something that will help you be your best self.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to today's episode. We're so just glad that you're here, and I'm already feeling super inspired with our presentation and having Georgia here. So first off, I'd like to welcome Georgia and really thank you for being with us today.
Thank you, Marcel. It's a pleasure to be here and to be part of the community with you all.
Wonderful. And you're joining from sunny California, is that right?
Yes, I am. Warm, sunny, beautiful California. I'm very grateful.
That's great. Well, I already have so many questions just hearing about your story and what you're sharing. Before we get to the live Q&A, I'd like to invite everyone who's joining us today to put in your comments in the comment section below, your name, where you're calling from or joining us from, or even where you're from, and any questions that you might have for Georgia, and then we'll go through them during the live Q&A. So I will get started. Um, so as I was hearing about all of the different projects and the things that you do, so you still volunteer at the LA Mission and also with the Children's Life Saving Fund, and you're active with the alopecia community, Arts Bridging the Gap, the Uganda and Ethiopia foundations, and your project Human by Any Other Name, your acting jobs, and I'm sure that's not a comprehensive list of everything that you do. So the question is, how do you juggle everything? I know that you mentioned that, it's the value proposition and, your days are better when you volunteer, but that is a lot of things that you're doing. So give us a little bit of tips on juggling everything and making everything work.
Yeah, list writing is one. I think it's a really good question, and thank you. And I really want to answer it from a very honest place, because I think sometimes I actually take on. Oh, sorry, I've got my plate replay went on all of a sudden. I sometimes do too much, and I don't want to pretend that I'm some superhuman machine that can do all this stuff and it doesn't affect me, because I think that's an unsafe message. I do take on too much sometimes, and that's a balance for me. I think that comes from that drive as a child, and I have a my biggest fear, like some people are afraid of public speaking. I'm fine with that. I'm terrified that I will leave this earth without seeing the change that I want to create and believe is possible for our world. That's my deepest fear. So I'm driven when I wake up in the morning. It's like, how much can I fit in today that takes me towards that change? So that helps. Having a deep, driving, it's kind of like if there was a shark in the water, you'd get out. And I'm kind of like the shark in the water is there when I wake up every morning, like, can you do everything today? But it's also enjoying the experience and the fun of it and the play of it. And I made a deal with myself that I would not do a job that I wouldn't do if I wasn't getting paid. Does that make sense? I wouldn't do it if I, no, I think I got it right. That didn't sound right. But yeah, basically, I'll only do a job if I'd still do it if I wasn't getting paid. And that made it possible to just say yes to so much and know when something's a very big no. So I've been able to give my time to the things that matter and not fill my time with stuff that brings me down, brings my energy down, brings my sense of self down, so that I don't have the energy to do the important stuff. And then it's the people. Because once you're in something, I fall in love with all the people. And why wouldn't I want to go on a Friday night to see Richard and do farming on the top of the rooftop? It's like, oh my gosh, Richard, I get to see him on Friday. And then, like, oh, Saturday, I've got this huge rehearsal with these great people. So the people become the part of it. And even I'm an introvert. I'm a major introvert. But seeing the quality people that I know are at that destination make it worth it. And then I recommend writing lists, sleeping, working out every morning, because that gets you motivated. And I also want to say, for anyone that's watching and goes, but I couldn't do this, I've got kids and blah, blah, blah. I'm also really aware that I moved here without a family, and I don't have a partner, and I don't have children. And so that's my job here. A parent's job is to be a parent first and be an incredible parent and be a role model to their children. I don't have that in my life, so this is my role. And parents should volunteer too, but I can make it my focus, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, thank you for the honest perspective and really helpful tips for many of us who want to volunteer, but we just don't know how to juggle everything. And, parents, I'm a parent, and sometimes it's a struggle. And but at the end of the day, it's going back to why do you volunteer, and getting that sense of, yes, I want to hang out with Richard, urban farming, etc. But I think one of the things that probably is a drive for you. You mentioned in the video presentation, there's so many problems and I want to fix them, but how do I do that? And so I guess I'm wondering, do you ever get tired or frustrated that there's still a need to help others to get the basics?
Yes, it is. Thank you, Marcel. It is the thing that I think stops a lot of people from volunteering. So there may be some people watching this that don't know why they don't volunteer. And I would say, give yourself the compassion to understand there is a fatigue that happens from the sadness and the devastation of things in life. And it can be overwhelming. And I feel that too, because I know, and I have to come to peace with, this is the hardest thing in my life to come to peace with. I can't fix it all. None of us can. But I can do this today. And it's a lot of that sort of being present in the moment and going, what can I do? And there's a joy, once again, like talking about the community engagement piece of it. If my skill is, as I mentioned in the video, seeing the problems and thinking of ideas, but I know somebody that has this engineering skills to do that, create a team, create a community around it, because as so many great quotes say, one person can't change it all, but a community can change the world. And if you create a group of people who can do this and bring this and have this idea and have this experience and have the time or have the resources, have the money, like these are all important pieces. Not everybody has to do the time. Some people can do the phone call and connect you to somebody who makes it all possible. And so we get afraid that if I get involved in this and I can't fix it, I might fail. I think that's the autonomic response that happens in our body, is this is so bad. I don't want to reach in and feel how bad it is and it not change. But we've got one choice. We either jump in or we don't. Well, we got two choices. You either jump in and learn and do this part, this little part, and the other billion people could do the other parts, or you don't do anything. And I don't know which one feels better to you, but I certainly would like to try doing something.
Absolutely. And you mentioned about how the people that you work with is such an important part of it. And I mean, I would love to go and volunteer with you because your energy and passion are just so contagious. And I think that's probably one of the things that we need to remember. Make it fun and make it easy, and start one thing at a time, because collectively we would be able to make a lot of difference in the world, as long as people just start something. And so that brings me to Arts Bridging the Gap. That story about Razi, who started dancing, which then improved his math skills. It's quite inspirational, and really it's a reminder of how important art is to the overall development of kids. Can you talk a little bit about Arts Bridging the Gap? I heard there's a new big mural coming soon.
Yes. So, thank you. Arts Bridging the Gap really was my kind of biggest step into doing something when I first started it. And Razi was my inspiration, and it was profound to see. And that was a great thing for me to do, to reflect and do lots of research. I took a year to research and really understand the data and really understand, because there was a part of it that is like, if I'm going into this community looking the way I do, I better know my stuff and I better have a really good reason, because I don't want to be seen as the white savior. I don't want to be seen as, I know what's wrong, let me fix you. That is not what I'm here to do. But you don't get art? Like, I don't know if I'd be alive without art. Like, art was singing and dancing, and all of these things that I got as a child made me everything that I am today. And you precious people don't get it. It's just not okay. And so I started jumping in with the, like, we'll just do art and we'll do whatever art we can. And I learned so much about trauma and childhood trauma through that experience, and how art is like a magical key. I heard a statistic, a fact yesterday that I didn't even know, but one of the most healing experiences someone can have is looking at an abstract piece of art. So the piece of art behind you, Marcel, is actually helping people heal their trauma, just as I realized. That actually helps us, because what it does, and there's the science behind it, but it creates awe and reverence in our body and a sense of possibility and imagination, and that creates pro-social moments. So when somebody is feeling awe or reverence, they feel like they have more time. Therefore, if someone says, hi, how are you? Or could you help me? We're far more inclined to say, hi, I'm great, thanks, how are you? Or, yeah, sure, I'll help. And these are the moments that reduce crime rates. They make people have a greater sense of pride in their community, like all of these things, and sense of self. And so when you put art into a world, and that's why we do murals, because I realized with that drive of like wanting to fix everything, I couldn't be in their lives every day. I could go to a class and be with these kids, but then I leave. And I wanted them to remember how magical they are. I wanted them to remember the gratitude experience we had. I wanted them to remember the empathy curriculum we put them through. And I was like, well, if I leave a mural that they painted in their community that they see on the way to school every day, we might get there. And so, yeah, we do these huge murals. We do a number of other programs as well. We're starting a choir, because singing, music is the one art that activates all areas of your brain. And it also, if a child lives in trauma, they don't hear properly. They don't actually hear the same as a child that didn't grow up in trauma. It's about a 50% ability to hear. So that's not fair. You're in class and the teacher says, you're not listening, you didn't hear me. Or we could take it to a very serious level of like, put your hands up, stop, don't shoot. All of these things, if they're not hearing, they're already 50% disadvantaged. And music and singing for 2 years returns your hearing to the same point as a child without trauma. So we're doing things like that so that our kids get to have fun. They just think they're having fun. They have no idea any of this is going on underneath. And we have so much fun. But underneath, it's about, you are so full of potential. Our children in under-resourced communities, in my opinion, are our leaders because of the resilience, the deep empathy they have for the challenges. That's what our world needs now. So it's our job to arm them with the agency, the confidence, and the access through these opportunities so that they can lead us in the way that our world needs.
Here, here. We all need to do our part, and we need to invest in our children. So I fully agree with you on that. Thank you for mentioning about the art healing trauma. I will always remember that. This was painted by one of our interns from one of our programs a while back, and so we are just grateful to have this in our office. And every time I look at this now, I will remember art will heal trauma. So thank you for that.
You know, it's beautiful, and it's so you. Like, I feel like it fits you as a personality. Like, I can't imagine you without that. That's so interesting. That, yeah.
Thank you. Well, we've got so many people joining us from around the world, Georgia. So I wanted to give a quick shout out to everyone joining literally from around the world. We have someone from the Philippines. We have someone from Ghana, from Spain, Madrid. We have someone from Poland, from Turkey. Here in the US, we've got New York City. So we've got a lot of people joining us, which is wonderful. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. And some of them are sharing their favorite volunteering activities. Because before the program started, I asked if people could share what's your favorite volunteering activity, just to kind of get some inspiration for those of us, who might be looking for what else can I do. So I'm just going to read a few of these. Viola from Poland said that her favorite one is anything that involves beach, forest, park cleanups, which is a lot of fun. And then Laura from Madrid said that one of her favorite volunteer activities is working with kids doing poetry slam.
Oh, amazing. Yes.
And then Gosha from Turkey said that her volunteering activity so far was planting trees around the city that she lives in.
So important. Thank you, Gosha, for doing that.
Absolutely. So let me get to some of the questions that we already have here. Antonius from Chicago asked, what are the similarities or differences working on volunteering opportunities in the US versus in East Africa?
Such a good question. I'm going to answer it from a perspective of someone coming from the US, because I guess that's going to be more helpful to you. I mentioned in the video what it's like to be a volunteer from within the community in East Africa, that there's a sense of just, this is your day. But when we do it in the US, there's a sense of, some people are volunteers and some people are not volunteers, right? Like there's the group of people that like to volunteer, and there's the group of people that just don't do that. We just don't do that. And I didn't plan on saying this, but I don't like the way that sometimes when I share that I'm doing these things, people are like, oh, you're such a good person. I could never be like that. And I'm like, I don't want to feel better. Like the way that you said that is like, oh, you're better than, no. I am an equal person to you. I just made a choice. And you could make that choice. You could. You're going to go have coffee. You're on the way to have coffee. This is a time that you... So I think in the US, there's a little bit more of a, what role do you play in life? And you're either a person that is a volunteer person or you're not. And I think, although politics is horrific in East Africa, there is a sense of people get a little bit more attached to volunteering being part of their political identity or their stance identity or their cause identity here in the US, that I'm a person that has a belief around equal rights, so I'm going to volunteer for that, or I'm going to protest for that. When I work in East Africa and India, I think both are very, very similar. There's a bit more of a spiritual sense to it. Of when I go there, the joy and the happiness and the love, like there's a celebration of today we get to serve. How lucky are we when we go and volunteer in insane asylums? Like they literally have people that are in the worst state, and there's this, it's almost like a party. Like, let's go and be and eat food, and there'll be music. And in East Africa, especially in Uganda, I mean, I could send you, Antonio, videos of me dancing. That's my volunteer. Like, I've been dancing for hours with these kids, and there is incredible video of me dancing with 6 or 7 children that are deaf and are challenged with speaking, and we danced for an hour together. I mean, could there be a more transformative experience for somebody? Getting to dance with the kids that you didn't know could hear that music. And man, have they got moves. I'll tell you that much. But that's volunteering in East Africa, is play and dance. And yes, it's very serious and the issues are real. I don't want to compare. They're just very real. But there's a joy. Like I come home and sleep in my bed the nights when I'm in India and Africa, and I probably sleep with a huge grin on my face. When I volunteer in the US, I'm always still smiling, but there's a little bit more of a like, oh, come on, like let's all do this. So that's the honest answer.
Yeah. Well, there's you mentioned about making a choice, and anyone can do whatever they want to do. So as we're talking about Uganda and of course Ethiopia, when did you first go there, and what did you see that inspired you to start the organizations there?
Both of those stories seem a little ridiculous. So I will share though. The Ethiopia organization, I went to volunteer at Children's Hunger Fund in Santa Clarita, just boxing up food, and met a number of the development folks and the organization people. And one of them was a Ethiopian man. We had a quick conversation. I just got back from India and was in a really challenging situation emotionally that day. So I was very honest. He contacted me and said, I want to meet you for lunch. He told me about his vision to uplift 1 million women in Africa through business. And I loved it. And I said, I think it's an incredible idea. What can we do? How can I help? We met again. And I said, this is ridiculous. I can't do this from here. When are you going again? And so I got on a plane a month later and spent 8 days there. And I'd have him set up lots of meetings to meet a lot of the women. And so I just spent a lot of time listening and researching and planning, and just saw the issues of mental health so very clear to me that there was no way that we could uplift these women with skills if we didn't address their mental issues and or mental state, I want to say, for very good reasons they have these concerns. And so I went home and wrote this long thesis about what I believed was needed and what we could do, and started the organization with him. And I actually have handed him the reins as of about 2 weeks ago to move back and to do the work full time. So that was that one. Uganda happened because of an email that I received that I honestly thought myself was one of those, like, I'm a Kenyan prince and I need your money, basically. And I was like, okay, Ashraf Kaba, sure. You run an organization in Uganda, and it was called Integrated by Youth Dreams, and you do art. Okay, sure. But I was kind of like, really? You want to do an art program with us? That's different. I've never heard this angle before. I'm kind of intrigued. So we started writing backwards and forwards. We ended up doing a pen pal art share through Arts Bridging the Gap. He was a real person. And we started sharing postcards between his kids and mine. And then he said to me, we're having a real problem with our organization and I don't know what to do. And I said, well, at the moment, you're just stopgapping with the issues. You're providing food. I was a bit ignorant in how desperate the need was. And I kind of was like, I want to be part of a sustainable change organization. And so eventually he said, would you become our trustee? And I said, I'll come and visit and see what it's like. And so I did the similar thing. I stayed for 8 days. The first trip, I've been there 3 times now. But the first trip, And we started community Hearts for Community Action from that trip, where we are transitioning from emergency needs to sustainable development for the community. And yeah, it all started from an email that I thought was a scam. So that's those two. And India, which I think is even more hilarious, is I read an article on a Sunday about a man, and I just looked at the picture. And you know, when you just see something and you're like, I need to know that person. I don't know if it was because he was ridiculously handsome, could have been that. But I wrote to him and I said, I love what you're doing at Serve Needy. I want to help. What can I do? And he said, well, you'd need to see it in person. So I got on a plane and started the film, and now that that family is part of my family in a way that I never thought possible. Those kids.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I've actually got a follow-up question. This is tying in very nicely from Laura, who said, thank you so much for the amazing work that you're bringing to the world and for sharing your positivity and belief in what we as individuals can accomplish. She specifically mentioned about the projects that you're working in Africa. They're especially inspiring. So she's got two parts of the question here. How were you able to identify the specific needs that you are focused on there, which we kind of touched on a little bit? But the next question is, how were you able to successfully build teams on whom you can rely to help carry out the work when you're not there?
Mm. Such a wise question, Laura. I can tell and I know a little bit about your work, so I know that you have seen this firsthand. That so I'll say that identifying the needs comes from listening. That's the only, like, obviously you then have to think afterwards, but when I'm on these trips, I do a lot of listening because that's the only way. We don't know the answers. They are The community tells me the answers in the issues that they're having. So it's a matter of really deep listening and thinking what would make this world better for them. The teams thing is a constant challenge. There's no easy answer to that, and it for a person like me who likes to get things right, I don't want to call myself a perfectionist because I think that's an overused term. I think we all now know that there's no such thing as perfect, but I definitely want it to work. I want things to work. So, especially in communities where there's a different culture of accountability, it's a different, there's so many challenges in East Africa and India to get places, to be on time. There's so many issues that turn up that are very real issues. It's very hard to get people to be accountable a lot of the time. So it's a matter of finding a few people that you can identify that their passion and their drive is strong enough that you can rely on them. And I think sometimes we look for the skills. We look for, you have this degree or you know these things. Especially in these cultures, that isn't the most important thing. The most important thing is I feel the drive to make the change. Finding those people, they could be completely unskilled. Personally, I think passion and drive is a valuable skill, but by the technical term, they could be totally unskilled, never graduated school, but they are determined to make a difference. That's your person. That's the person that you make your contact. So unfortunately, Ashraf moved to the US, so it's created he got married and fell in love with an American girl, and he's in the US, so we're now challenged by the fact that both of us are here. But his brother and Patience, who I adore and love, they have the passion. So at the end of the day, when I meet with him on the phone every week and we say, how's this going? How's that going? He can call Patience and check in, and he can call Muhammad and check in. So there are ways to do it. I think also having grace and patience. When you work with different cultures, people take different time. And there's lots of jokes about India time and Africa time and all of that sort of thing. It's a good test of patience, I'll tell you that much.
Well, it's you work with so many different countries and cultures, and you take the best out of each of those countries and cultures, and you take them with you, and that's what is going to make us better global community in general. Um, But one of the things I wanted to focus on, maybe this would be the last question that we have, is a question from Gosha. She was asking specifically if you could share any ideas for volunteering activities for children. She said, I'm looking for the right activity to get my own kids introduced to volunteering. I have some ideas, but wonder if you could recommend anything from your experience. And I also have a 3-year old, which I would love to get him, into volunteering as soon as we can. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, really great question, because I think there is a mindfulness that parents need to have of what community am I going to bring my children to. It needs to be a safe environment. And I mean, you guys, parents know this. I don't need to say about that stuff. But it is also something that we need to be mindful of. So some of the things I've learned that work really well, out painting projects, any sort of beautification project is a really good, because they get their hands in it, they get to paint. Gardening projects, any sorts of urban farming projects or farming projects in general, right, doing cards or gifts or notes. That's one of the things, like during the pandemic, was a really good volunteer opportunity to put together little notes of encouragement for people that are having challenging times. Another one that I mentioned in the video, but I really want to remind people, and we're living it in India. We at Serve Needy, there is an old people's home and an orphanage that work together, because our elderly folks and our littlest kids can bring so much to each other. And if you talk to your young person about, we're going to go visit some people that have lots of stories to tell and lots of, wisdom to share, and we're going to have lunch with them and we're going to play games with them. They're like, what? We're going to go play games? Cool. And that's a really valuable thing for a community of elderly folks who are isolated. So I would say any sort of beautification. There's a lot of, I'm not a fan of, I don't want to say a fan. I don't put my energy towards boxing up sandwiches or water bottles or things for people experiencing homelessness, because I think that is a misguided way to deal with the problem, because then we're sort of looking down onto them like, here, take a sandwich, but I don't have time to spend with you. I think that it's not about not feeding them, because everybody needs food, but some of our friends experiencing homelessness in Skid Row eat better than our kids in South LA, because so many people are there trying to feed them. I think as an adult, you can go down and have a conversation with them. Sure. Spend 30 minutes with them and then say, hey, would you like to grab a sandwich together? That's the answer. So I really recommend parents don't continue to perpetuate the, like, we're going to drop off water bottles to a group of people that are needy. That's just not. Create a situation where you're building something together. And if that's the safest way to do that is with plants and trees, like our friends in the chat, that's really great. I think it was actually Gosha that did that. So that's a great thing for kids. Making it something where you're at an equal level with whoever you're working with is really important for our kids to not build an understanding of we're better than, or we have more than, or we're the lucky ones, because they should know that they are loved and fortunate and should be grateful for their world. But I don't want to continue to build a world where there's that divide.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I thank you for the suggestions. I definitely know what to look for in terms of the first volunteering activity for my kid, and hopefully for other parents who are watching this today. I feel like we could just talk and talk for hours. There's so many things I still want to learn and get from you, from all of your experience and your passion. But we might have to continue this another day. But we are just so grateful that you are spending time with us and sharing your story, Georgia. You're amazing, and everything that you have been doing and continue to do. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you, Marcel. I feel the same way. I was saying to you earlier, I just want to ask you questions and be connected with you. So it's a pity that we have such a short time, but I am so grateful to you and to the Greenheart Connects community who are making it possible and available and celebrating people volunteering and being together in this way. So thank you so much for everything you're doing.
Absolutely. And there's a great connection to the segment after this. So to everyone else, stay tuned to hear about the global community and our friends who are still doing a lot of, making a lot of difference in the world. So stay tuned. We have thousands of Greenheart friends and partners from around the world who share our commitment to connecting people and planet. Today, we will hear from Silas Okwerwoth from Uganda. Silas got to know Greenheart when he came to the US for one of our professional trainee programs. In the years following, Silas joined the Alumni Council and earned a Greenheart Impact Grant. His project, which is training youth in computer literacy skills, has helped many people in his home country of Uganda. In addition, Silas credits the project he did with helping him learn and grow. Please watch this short video from Silas.
My name is Silas Okwerwoth. I am from Uganda. After my Greenheart intern in 2014, I was selected to be part of Greenheart Alumni Council in 2015. I chose to apply for a grant to teach computer skills to students because I was trying to solve the problem of computer illiteracy, which is one of the major causes of unemployment among the youth in Uganda. What made me to dedicate my time to help the young people was the high rate of unemployment. What I did to solve this problem was teaching different packages in software application, including Microsoft Word, Excel, and others. I was able to help youth to learn typing skills, navigate the internet, which provided them job opportunities. Despite the challenges of limited desktop computers and space at the training center, I was able to teach in shifts in order to give equal chances to all the learners. The project was successful because I trained 150 youth, of which some are now employed in small businesses and some have set up computer bureaus. I am still in touch with some of the kids that I taught. 2 of them are employed as secretaries, 3 are now running private businesses and computer stores as a result of my classes. Looking back on that time in my life, I feel that this was an important time for me because I touched the lives of very many marginalized people. I now have a master's in public health and work for an NGO in Uganda helping village women and vulnerable children.
Thank you. That was truly inspirational. Do you have an idea to share with us about taking care of our environment or of each other? If you do, please email us your idea at connects@greenheart.org. We would love to hear from you and potentially feature you on an upcoming Greenheart Connects episode or highlight you on our social media channels. There's so much that I've learned today. Many thanks to Georgia and Silas for sharing their stories today. And thank you to all of you who participated and asked questions today. We hope that you've been inspired to find ways to help the earth and help your community. If you're looking for volunteer opportunities, please check out our resource page for information on Georgia's organization and for finding the right in-community activity for you. Join us on July 15th, 2021 at 11 a.m. Central Time when we talk with Geronimo Coughlin about fair trade. Geronimo is the founder of PETS, P-A-T-S, a Peruvian nonprofit in the Peruvian Amazon, working since the year 2000 with Yanesha indigenous community to become artisans and business people and create sustainable livings for their families, all while preserving their forests. PATS is the group who make our deep wooden bowls sold at greenheartshop.org. We think you'll be inspired. You are here because you want to learn about ways to care for our planet and for each other. We appreciate your time and hope that you found today's episode inspiring. Be sure to view all the inspiring past episodes of Greenheart Connects at greenheartconnects.org. Later today, this full episode will be available online. Be sure to check out the resources page for more information that has been shared by our speakers. And finally, please join us on our social media channels to continue the conversation, to support each other, and to share what you are doing to make the world a better place. We hope to see you here again on July 15th, 2021 for the next Greenheart Connects. Thank you.